Ladies and gentlemen, we are live and we are excited because we are all on the road to WrestleMania. This is the Fastlane preview and prediction show, and the lot is up for stakes on Sunday as for the second year in a row, a WrestleMania main event spot is up and for the taking. This time, Roman Reigns will collide with Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar in what is sure to be the match of the night. But first, we'll start with the 2 out of 3 Falls pre-show matchup between Kalisto and Alberto Del Rio. Now, I'm a bit upset that the United States title has been delegated to the pre-show. No disrespect to these guys, but when the Big Show and Kane make the pay-per-view as part of a 6-man tag, then that should be on the pre-show, no matter what the circumstances are. Now, moving on, before we get into this match, let's go all the way back to when Alberto Del Rio re-debuted and beat John Cena for the title in the U.S. Open Challenge. The U.S. Open title challenge had become a big deal, and by and large, the U.S. title had become more important than it had been in years. Del Rio debuted, won it, and it was a big deal. It was a trending topic on Twitter. WWE likes to mention Twitter. People were going crazy for it, and it was a nice debut. All the way up until they stopped caring about Alberto Del Rio. The Mex America pairing with Zeb Cota never quite worked out, and Alberto Del Rio floundered down the mid-card because of it. Eventually, John Cena would come back, and eventually he would be the one to endorse Kalisto as he faced off against Del Rio. Now, I was never quite a fan of John Cena coming into this angle because when Cena comes into angles, it tends to be about Cena, and this one tended to be about Cena, and it never quite came off as someone putting over Kalisto. Now, when the feud became about Kalisto and Del Rio, I was interested. And what we got was a one-on-one pairing between the two on Raw. When Kalisto won the title, I thought it was a huge deal. It was great. It was a great moment. And Kalisto was on his way to stardom. Then he lost the title the next night on SmackDown. That's when I lost a tad bit of interest in this feud, because the title had been devalued due to them hot-shotting it back to Del Rio. The feud lost momentum and interest, and most of all, Kalisto's momentum had come to a stall after losing the title. So here we find ourselves again. Kalisto is a 2-time champion, and we are back to another pay-per-view showdown. Lately, the build to this match has been nothing but 3-way matches and tag matches between Kalisto and the League of Nations and so forth. The U.S. title kind of seems like it's on the back burner, but we have a chance to have a really good match here. Del Rio has proven that he can wrestle the Lucha Libre style, and their last 2 matches were really good. Kalisto tends to have really good matches with Del Rio, and a 2 out of 3 Falls match should be exciting if they do it right. They have to give them time. If they do, the crowd will be extremely happy, and it will be a great match. My prediction here is that Kalisto retains to keep his momentum going, and he will go into WrestleMania as the United States champion. I'm also hoping to see this happen because I'm ready for the Lucha Dragons to break up. Because let's face it here, Sin Cara is the Marty Jannetty of the team. I mean, I'm not saying that Kalisto has to throw his head through a barbershop window, but Kalisto is clearly the one that's ready to move on from this team, and I would like to see that happen. Next up, we'll get into some Divas action as Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch takes on Tamina and Naomi. Before we get into this match, I'd like to say that I'm very excited to see that they've gotten the Divas Revolution back on track. They've broken up the factions, they've stopped the 6-woman tag matches that led to meaningless victories on Raw and SmackDown, and things have gotten very personal. And speaking of personal, Team Bad's breakup was that indeed, and it was well done. Sasha is now the face that everyone wants to see, and Naomi has been doing a great job as a heel with Tamina as the muscle. They've done a good job of making me care about this match as they've told a good story leading into it. Becky and Sasha may not be the best of friends anymore, and that's putting it lightly, but they have a common enemy in Naomi and Tamina. This has the potential to be a very good match, but in the end, I see Becky and Sasha coming out victorious. I'll also be interested to see where this leaves Becky and Sasha in the coming weeks, as I believe that this win will be a launch pad into another story that will lead both Becky and Sasha into a triple threat Divas title match at WrestleMania. Next up, we have the Intercontinental title match as Kevin Owens will be taking on Dolph Ziggler. Going back to the Royal Rumble, Kevin Owens is in a fabulous feud with Dean Ambrose, and they had a tremendous last man standing match. However, during the build to Fastlane's main event, the Intercontinental title sort of felt like a prop once again, as Dean Ambrose was focused on Brock Lesnar. It would have been nice had they let Owens win the title at the Rumble, as it would have given this match more build. But better late than never, because they made the right call in getting the title off of Dean before Fastlane. Now moving on to this match, I can get invested into Owens and Ziggler having a possible show-stealing match, as I know that both guys have the ability to do so. But what I can't get invested in is the story. Look, even the greatest of wrestlers, guys like Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, can wrestle hundreds of times. And those guys have probably kind of all of those matches. But they can wrestle many times every week, and have fantastic matches. But we're going to inevitably reach a point to where we are all tired of seeing them wrestle. And that's where we are with Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler, in my opinion. So instead of building to a great story, such as Kevin Owens has been dominant over Dolph Ziggler, and maybe this is the time where Ziggler can pick up a win. Instead of building to a story like that, it just feels like we're building to another match. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this match could very well steal the show, and that would be great for the pay-per-view, but it would be so much better if we had a story to get invested into. In the end, I think we will get a fabulous match. This would be a tremendous choice to open the show, to get the fans ignited, excited, because both of these guys have the ability to do so. But as for the result, I think Kevin Owens will retain the championship, and he will head into WrestleMania. Moving on, we have more Divas action as the Divas Championship will be up for grabs as Charlotte will be taking on Brie Bella. This match comes off the heels of Daniel Bryan's retirement announcement, and many think that WWE will let Brie win the match as a thank you to Daniel Bryan. We'll get into the result later, but one of the better things that has come off the heels of this Daniel Bryan retirement announcement for Brie is that she has a defined role as a face. We went through a weird period of time where the Bellas seemed to switch from heel to face in any given match, and it was a strange dynamic. Now Brie's a face. Everybody loves to yes when she does the Daniel Bryan kicks. And while I may not be that big of a fan, and while I can't stand the beginning of her theme music, does anybody hate that as much as I do? I mean, when I hear the beginning, it makes me want to throw my TV through the window, but I digress. Moving on to Charlotte. Charlotte has benefited greatly from the improvement in the Divas Revolution as she has gone back to being the heel that she was in NXT. Now, at first I was against the pairing with Ric Flair in WWE as I felt that she had no chance to get over while being stuck in the background of the legend that is Ric Flair. But lately, Ric Flair has taken a back seat as Charlotte has gone to the forefront. Now, I wasn't too thrilled with her getting heel heat by using Daniel Bryan's retirement announcement, but I get it, and it's fine because it gives fans even more of a reason to hate her. Now, moving on to the match, I don't have high expectations as I'm not that big a fan of Brie's in-ring work, and I'm lukewarm to okay on Charlotte's in-ring work. In the end, Charlotte will retain, and I really think we're headed to a triple threat Divas Championship match at WrestleMania with Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks. And now we turn to the match that should have been on the pre-show. The Big Show, Kane, and The Ryback versus the Wyatt family. Where do I start here? Big Show is face again. What a shocking turn of events. Kane popped out of the ring. I mean, can we stop the popping out of the ring spot? I mean, the last time it was cool was the first time. Taker pulled Diesel under the ring in the smoke. It was cool then. Let's stop that. And we have Ryback who has new tights. Moving on to the Wyatt family. Talk about going from the penthouse to the outhouse. I mean, just last month, they were just throwing Brock Lesnar out of the Royal Rumble. And on the go-home show to the Royal Rumble, I mean, the gullible wrestling fan that I am, they had me thinking, oh, the Wyatt family is back. You know, Bray Wyatt is back. This is going to be interesting. And now we're back to the Wyatt family just being another faction. I mean, they're doing their darndest to try to put Braun Strowman over as this unstoppable, immovable big guy. And while he's believable, it just doesn't seem that he's ready for the big time. Moving on to the match, believe it or not, if they have one of these situations to where the match breaks down and the referee has lost all control, I mean, and it turns to a big brawl, this has the potential to be a fun little match. Let them brawl on the outside of the ring, have some nice spots, maybe. Let them brawl inside the crowd, have a big spot there, and let them come back into the ring, run the spots where everybody hits their finisher, and it'll be an acceptable affair. As for the ending result, I think this one is fairly predictable, and the Wyatt family will be walking out of this match with the victory because they have to have some kind of momentum heading into WrestleMania where we might see another encounter with Brock Lesnar, but that is still to be determined. Moving on, we have the rubber match between AJ Styles and Chris Jericho. Now, going back, I was so excited that AJ was going to WWE. I mean, I ran down a list of matches. He could have this match, that match. That match would be a 4-star match, a 5-star match. And WrestleMania would be great. And once he got into the feud with Chris Jericho, I was excited for it. But I mean, I don't like the fact that AJ Styles has been cast as the rookie in this feud, even though the man is 38 years old. And leave it to WWE to drive home the point that nothing you do outside of WWE matters. I mean, if I were in their position, I would drive home the point that this guy, AJ Styles, has done everything worldwide, and because of that, he's a big deal. But instead, they've brought up the point that he's done everything worldwide, and none of that matters. Why? Because he didn't do it in WWE. So from Jump Street, you've told your audience that this guy isn't that big a deal, and the only wins that matter is the ones that he got against Jericho and The Miz. And speaking of The Miz, I have no idea why they inserted him into this feud, but he did have a really good match with AJ Styles on Raw, and I enjoyed it. And I would even argue that his first match against AJ was better than Chris Jericho's first match. And speaking of Jericho, I don't know what it is, but I haven't really been feeling him lately. I mean, the last time that he was interesting to me was when he debuted and he had the gimmick when he said nothing at all. And it ticked everybody off, but it was interesting and I wanted to see where it went, and it didn't exactly go anywhere. But recently, he came back and he had the feud with Bray Wyatt, and that looked interesting and that fell flat. And he had the feud with the New Day, and that looked like it had some potential, and that fell flat. Looking at this feud, I haven't really found his interactions or his first two matches with AJ Styles to be greatly entertaining. They've been moderately entertaining at best, in my opinion. And speaking of those two matches, in my opinion, having two matches to build to one match at a pay-per-view all in 1 month hurts the feud. If they just wanted to include The Miz into this feud, they could have ran something with AJ Styles and The Miz for a few weeks with AJ getting the upper hand, and then they could have had Jericho tell Styles in a backstage segment that he's been impressed with what he's done to The Miz, but The Miz is not Chris Jericho. And then we could have built to a first-time dream match, a first-time clash, no pun intended, between AJ Styles and Chris Jericho. But be that as it may, we will get the third match at Fastlane, and I really think that this will be the best match of the three matches, as AJ Styles will pick up the victory and head to WrestleMania. Lastly, I am very excited to see who AJ's opponent will be at WrestleMania because the possibilities are endless. And now we have reached the main event, the match that everybody is talking about, the match that everybody can't wait for.
Let's get ready to suck it!
Wrong guy.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Alright, now we're on track. It's Dean Ambrose, it's Brock Lesnar, it's Roman Reigns. A WrestleMania main event spot is on the line, and to say I have a lot to say about this one is an understatement. First, let's start off with Brock Lesnar. He is indestructible. He hasn't tapped out or been pinned in years. He's been booked as strongly as anybody in wrestling in the last few years, but he's been knocked down a peg or two after being eliminated in the Rumble by the Wyatts. More on that later. But he's back to being the mayor of Suplex City as he's tossed around both Reigns and Ambrose in the build-up to the Fastlane main event. Moving on to his advocate, Paul Heyman, old Paul Lee has masterfully sold this main event with his promos. The guy not only puts over Brock Lesnar, but he also puts over Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, all while telling them that they have no chance against the Beast. I also like how he talks about Roman's illustrious family heritage when those two interact. He puts over the fact that he knows how dangerous Reigns is, and by doing that, it gives even more credibility to Roman Reigns. Speaking of Roman Reigns, boy, is he in a tough spot yet again at Fastlane. Last year, WWE thought that they could get him over as a face by facing a fan favorite in Daniel Bryan. I also assumed that they thought that they needed to add Bryan into the main event to add some intrigue, but that all blew up in their face as Roman Reigns became the de facto heel in the match because everybody wanted Daniel Bryan to win, and face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. So here we are again. WWE is trying to get Reigns over as a face, and this time they say, well, we've learned our lesson from last year. We're not going to have him face a fan favorite. We're going to have him face 2 fan favorites. You know, I really feel bad for Reigns because they keep putting him into positions to fail. He's going to be the de facto heel in this match. I mean, we had the one time when they tried to make him look like an assassin again as he took out Triple H, and that went over really well. The fans loved it. But ever since then, they've been trying to force feed Reigns as this happy-go-lucky face that nobody likes. To make matters even worse, they have inadvertently put Roman Reigns on the back burner during this entire build to Fastlane because one man has stole the show. And that man is Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose has been the guy that has sold me the most on Fastlane, and he has become the most over guy on the roster. What got me with Ambrose is that he has turned into this crazy guy that'll fight 100 times, but won't stop getting up until he wins one of them. And that has gotten him over big time with the crowd. His interactions with Brock have been great. They've never let someone bow up and talk to Brock like he's a nobody, and that's refreshing to see. Dean and Brock has taken over as the story of Fastlane, while the supposed guy that WWE is trying to get over has kind of been in the background. And as an aside, I mean, it's time for Brock to get a cuff. I mean, first The Undertaker with the low blow, then Dean with the low blow. I mean, they should just take full advantage of this and have Brock walk out to the main event with shorts that says "Only Chance." But I digress. Moving on, the funny thing with this Ambrose Reigns dynamic is that they have inadvertently been building to Dean overcoming the odds just as much as Roman overcoming the odds at WrestleMania. Dean was the guy that won the title, but it was taken away in the match against Seth Rollins. Dean was the guy that came that close to winning the Royal Rumble, and now Dean is the guy that we all want to see win. So when Dean gets those raucous cheers instead of Roman Reigns, they have no one to blame but themselves. Moving on to the match, it's going to be quite the circus as the fans treat Roman as the de facto heel in this match. It's going to be a fantastic matchup and will most certainly take a trip down Suplex City. But as for the ending result, I think the Wyatt family will reappear and take out Brock to kick off their WrestleMania program. And Roman will reign supreme as he takes out Dean with the Superman punch for the victory. Then he's going to get on the middle rope and do the slow, agonizing point to the WrestleMania sign that we've all seen before as we close the show with boos and jeers everywhere from the crowd. Well, we've come to the end of my very first audio pay-per-view preview and prediction show, and I hope you guys enjoyed it very much. Cheap plug here, but feel free to follow my blog at SwissArmyKnife87.wordpress.com and feel free to follow my Twitter at SwissArmyKnife87. Both links are below. I will be live tweeting Fastlane, and I hope to see you there.